July the 20th, and I'm going to call the special city council meeting to order. With the city secretary, please call the roll.
Mitchell,
Here.
Koch,
Here.
Allison,
Present.
Flores Kale,
Here.
Rizzo, Bradshaw,
Here.
Tobias.
All right, 5 members present. We have a quorum. Next up, citizen comments. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to come forward and speak? Seeing none, I'll close citizen comments. Next up, executive session.
Pursuant to Chapter 551 Texas Government Code, the City Council reserves the right to convene into executive session from time to time as deemed necessary during this meeting. The City Council may convene into executive session pursuant to any lawful exception contained in Chapter 551 of the Texas Government Code, including any or all of the following topics: pending or contemplating litigation, or to seek the advice of the city attorney pursuant to Section 551.071 Pipeline Ordinance Amendment, intervention in proceeding at the Railroad Commission regarding implementation of House Bill 1520 related to recovery of extraordinary costs incurred by certain gas utilities due to Winter Storm Uri, cause number 20-2048, Save Our Spring Alliance, Inc. et al. Versus the City of Kyle, council members in their official capacities in the 453rd Judicial District, Hays County, Texas. Possible creation of TERS, sign code, American fireworks contract, water tower painting contract, property acquisition, Project Pacific Blue, and Project Indigo.
Taken in executive session. There will be action taken now. I'd like to make a motion to direct the city manager to proceed with property acquisition as discussed in executive session.
Second.
It's been moved by the mayor, seconded by Councilmember Rizzo. Is there any discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Is there any other motions?
Yes, I would like to make a motion to approve. Do I just read that? Intervention in proceedings at the Rail House Commission regarding costs incurred by certain gas utilities due to Winter Storm Uri.
Second.
All right, it's been moved by Councilmember Kale, seconded by Councilmember Rizzo, that we proceed with the engagement with the law firm related to the gas utilities situation. Is there any discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
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 All opposed?
Nay. Nay.
Motion fails 5-2. That's all the actions for now, so motion to adjourn. All right, we are adjourned. Give the tape a second to roll over, and then we'll start our regular meeting. All right, good evening, everyone. The time is 7:04 p.m. It is Tuesday, July 20th, and I'm going to call this regularly scheduled city council meeting to order. Would all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Would the city secretary please call the roll?
Mitchell,
Here.
Koch,
Here.
Allison,
Present.
Flores Kale,
Here.
Rizzo,
Present.
Bradshaw. Here. Tobias.
Here.
All right, all members present, we have a quorum. Next up, approval of the minutes.
Mayor, I'd like to go ahead and make a motion to approve the minutes for July 6th special meeting and also regular council meeting same day.
Second.
All right, it's been moved by Councilmember Tobias, seconded by Councilmember Rizzo, that we approve the minutes for July 6th. Is there any discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Next up, citizen comments period. At this time, we ask anyone in the audience who wishes to come forward and speak on any item to please do so. We ask that you limit your comments to 3 minutes, that you direct those comments to the mayor and council, and that you fill out a citizen comments form and submit it to either myself or the city secretary. I do not have any forms that have been submitted as of yet. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to come forward and speak? Okay. Please state your name for the record.
My name is Wesley Matthews. I'm with the Hayes County Emergency Rental Assistance Program.
Sorry about that.
Right, that's okay. And so what I was want to do is just advise everybody that Hayes County went ahead and they received that federal emergency rental assistance, and they decided to do it in-house. So we created a new program in-house where we're able to assist anyone that has passed rent due to COVID. And what we're doing is we created flyers that are all QR code ready, that we're trying to go out now and get them sent out to. All right, perfect. So what we're doing now is we're trying to get out there and start promoting the program and getting it to the people that are going to be able to help out the best. The way the whole program is set up, that anyone can sit there right here and they can sit down, use their cell phone, and they can help somebody apply and create a ticket. As soon as they create that ticket, we get notified and get an email, and we're able to run through that. We're doing 3 different things. One is what we're doing is we're sending out letters to all the district courts, so that way any eviction that goes through there, they're going to have a notice that we do have a program, we do have the ability to try and assist. 2, we're contacting all the landlords and different people that are renting out to let them know that we do have a program to assist. 3, we're reaching out to like the library, city councils, and everyone to say, let's try and become a partnership, get the information out there. If you have anyone that's wanting to help with rental assistance or has people that come to them, contact us so we can give you information, flyers, and things to advertise for your community.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Right, thank you.
Jerry, would you mind following up with him to get information so you can send that to us? Yeah, that's fine. We'll get it. Is there anyone else who wishes to come forward to speak? All right, seeing none, I'm going to go ahead and close citizen comments period. It's now closed. Next up, agenda item number 3, presentation on crisis counseling assistance and training program for youth and adolescents supporting mental well-being during COVID-19. This is the Texas Recovering Together team, Ms. Mila Peterson and Ms. Diaz, and this is Councilmember Tobias.
Thank you, Mayor Mitchell. Just want to breathe this out real quick. It has been more than a year now since the coronavirus COVID-19 pandemic struck the United States, including our community. With a year of hunkering down, social isolation, mask wearing, at-home virtual learning for students, including an unpredictable economic and personal wellness future, this pandemic took its toll on everyone. As we look back to last summer, we knew this would be a very difficult time, but we didn't know how difficult. We certainly didn't know the challenge COVID-19 would have a lasting effect. Even though vaccines are readily available, the pandemic still goes on today. In doing some research, I found an April 2021 article written by Dr. Joshua Gordon, director of the National Institute of Mental Health. He stated, in the immediate wake of the traumatic experience, large numbers of affected people experienced distress, including new or worsening symptoms of depression, anxiety, and insomnia. He goes on to say most people will recover. Though recovery can take some time, a notable fraction of people will develop chronic symptoms severe enough to meet the criteria for mental illness, such as PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, or other major depressive disorders. People experiencing more severe stressors, such as exposure to social media, graphic or disturbing images on TV, and the tragic experience of family members and friends severely sick or have lost loved ones due to the COVID-19. People are more likely to develop chronic or severe reactions if they have one or more of these risk factors, such as lack of social support, food or housing instability, or a prehistory of mental health. For example, one study showed that food insufficiency was independently associated with symptoms of poor mental health. Job loss, housing instability, food insecurity, and other risk factors have affected even the minority communities. On that, with a positive note, I am very thankful for City Councilman Robert Rizzo for bringing forth the efforts in building a partnership with the Central Texas Food Bank, working alongside the City of Kyle, community, and many student volunteers. We are able to provide a monthly food distribution as a form of social service to the community. People with prolonged disruptions have also likely experienced enduring symptoms. However, I feel that if finding local resources that can assist these individuals experiencing these issues, they can benefit from some type of intervention. It is also important finding resources and counseling to our most vulnerable, our youth and adolescents. I believe receiving counseling or social services support and using coping strategies can lower these risks and maximize a person's chances for a full recovery. This brings us today to the Texas Recovering Together. It is a crisis counseling assistance program that is local and eagerly waiting to assist our community. So with that, I'd like to introduce our guests for this evening, Ms. Myra Peterson and Ms. Celine Diaz, for the presentation of the services they can provide for our city.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having us here today. I'm going to go ahead and start explaining our program, which is called Texans Recovering Together, but it is a part of the Crisis Counseling Assistance and Training Program. It's not moving. Oh, okay. Sorry, guys.
No worries.
Okay, so essentially the CCP program, its longer name is Crisis Counseling Assistance and Training Program. This is a federally funded program by the Federal Emergency Management Agency, known as FEMA. And so essentially FEMA gives us that money, which allows us to provide those free mental health resources and services to the communities that we do service. And so essentially Texas is the Lone Star State. We are super independent. We are prideful in that. So Texas's CCP program is called Texans Recovering Together. And it provides the exact same things to those communities that the president declares a disaster in. Obviously, the pandemic was something that affected everyone globally. So everyone in Texas is allowed to have this program and its services. And we are sponsored by a local mental health authority, which is, over here, which is Hill Country MHGD, or Hill Country Mental Health and Developmental Disabilities Center. And so essentially, Hill Country MHGD is a nonprofit mental health agency. It is also the local mental health authority. The LMHA is how I'll reference it. And so we cover their same counties. They have 19 counties in Hill Country, Texas. Those counties are shown here. And so our CCP program is actually based out of San Marcos. There are multiple CCP programs in the state of Texas and throughout the nation. Recently, we were approved again for our grant to go up until January 30th. So after that, these services will no longer be provided, but these are the counties we are servicing. And then, okay, and so the next question would be, who do we serve? So we serve just about anyone in our catchment area that is within the catchment area of Hill Country MHGD, our local mental health authority. But let's say someone came to us and wanted services regarding mental health or wanted resources because they're having a crisis. We would refer them to their appropriate CCP program in their community, or if there wasn't one available to them, we would refer them and give them linkage to those resources and services. And so Mila's gonna talk us through some of those that we've serviced.
Okay, so again, thank y'all for having us today. And this is just a few of many partnerships that we have created and served with our community. So the first picture here is with some ladies in Del Rio, Texas. And this is a support group who have, they're struggling through losing a loved one through COVID, or just maybe a tragedy that happened. So we also help with that. We've helped with the National Guard, the food bank in Comal County. We also serve Hays County as well. And then different community events, and of course our local law enforcement, as well as we did a junior police academy in Kerrville, Texas with the group of students that you see on the left. We also worked with the San Marcos CISD with the Rebound students, doing a presentation with them, and the Hays County Juneteenth Foundation. We also were a part of that. So we welcome all of our services to everybody in the community. It's all free, and like Celine shared with you, it is funded through FEMA.
Alrighty, so just to wrap us up real quick, so some of those services and resources we do offer are, firstly, CCP marketing items, which is a lot of what we did at the beginning of COVID, because obviously social distancing, we weren't allowed to be in contact with people. So we do have marketing items and educational material.
Sorry about that.
And psychoeducational material, which talks about various mental health topics in a brochure or a flyer or a one-pager, whatever it may be. We also do psychoeducational presentations where we come out, we talk about a various topic that an individual, organization, or a group of people might need, depending on what their needs are. And then, of course, we also do individual skills-based counseling sessions. And I just wanted to mention real quick, our positions are outreach crisis counselors. So our jobs are to go out into the community, call organizations and ask, would you like these services? And they say yes or no, and then we go out there and provide those services. But we are not licensed professional counselors by any means. We just provide ways for them to cope through the disasters or crises that they may be going through coping skills. So that's what we mean when we say skills-based counseling sessions. And we do those for individuals and groups. We also have a free mental health support line that's available 24/7. It's completely free, and when they call, they get paired with a mental health professional. And if all of that is not what they are wanting and they want assistance and referrals and linkages to the community resources, we do that as well. And so those were all of our services and resources offered. And that number for the 24-hour hotline is right there at the top, that 1888 number. And so all you guys have left to do is ask yourself a question. Do you yourself, or do you know someone that's struggling due to COVID or due to grief and loss, or just all of the stress from this past year? And if your answer is yes, the CCP program is here to help you all and provide you those services and resources you might be needing to adequately recover from what we've been going through. And so if you'd like to set up any services, our team lead is Lauren Mitchell. That's her number and email. You can set up services through there. And that's all we had for y'all. We do want to thank you so much for thank you guys for having us here and taking an interest in our services and letting us spread the word of Texans Recovering Together in our CCP program. And then we have that last one.
Thank you so much. Sorry you had to fight the feedback there. Does anybody have any questions or comments? We'll start with Mr. Tobias.
Yes, thank you for coming out. And obviously, look at the slide. There are other resources that we can be able to find on the city website if there's anybody else that is needing assistance when it comes to the COVID. Again, I appreciate you coming out. And the reason why I brought this forward is having some conversations with some family members and some friends. We're about ready to go back to school very soon. And we have some students that I've heard about from family members that are very nervous and very anxious about going back because, again, we're starting to see in the news about a new variant. We're starting to see about possible mass. I'm not saying that we are, but it's out there. And during our Peace and Progress event that Councilman Allison had, he had a person on the panel, that Ms. Curry, that stated that her anxiety that she was most nervous and most concerned about were her students that had been at home during the pandemic and the stresses and the anxiety that they've been going through. So this is why I brought it forward, so that way our residents can know that there are services out there available. You're not alone when it comes to this. I know there's been some students and just people in our community, including veterans or elderly and just ourselves, that are going through some crisis. And just to let people know that we do have that service available for you.
Thank you, Councilmember. Does anyone else have any commentary? Councilmember Rizzo.
Yeah, I just want to thank you for coming forward as well. You know, I worry what we lost as a city, being secluded, being isolated. What are people going to be like when they come out of the isolation of being during a pandemic? And I've seen, you know, different aspects of society now being different. What I see on the highways is different. I'm probably a little guilty of that as well. But definitely people's attitudes have changed. Their driving habits have changed. And also the most vulnerable in our society, the elderly. They've reached out to several council members and have explained their fears, and having a resource there where they can call, that they could maybe have some of that, you know, questions that they have answered, or even just hearing a voice would be great. So I'm glad this resource is out there, and I just want to thank y'all for what y'all do.
Anyone else?
Mayor.
Councilmember Allison, sorry.
Yes, thank you, Councilmember Tobias, for bringing this forward. This is something that I think sometimes we're all aware that this could be a potential problem, and sometimes it is kind of left behind. So I thank you for bringing this awareness forward and sponsoring this item. Thank you, Ms. Diaz and Peterson, for your presentation. If we could, I'm not sure who your contact here is with the city, but if we could get your PowerPoint presentation, I'd love to, and I know council probably would love to help spread the word about the resources that you all have. And I know that Councilmember Tobias mentioned we also have some items on our website as well. So just getting the word out is the best thing, one of the best things we can do as elected officials with our reach and our platform. So if we can help in any way, happy to do so.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next up, agenda item number 4, CIP road projects and consent agenda presentation. Mr. Barba.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Leon Barba, City Engineer. Starting off with Burleson, we're still trying to work with the contractor to wrap this project up. I can tell you our project manager is getting very frustrated with this, but she keeps working at it. So, Heroes Memorial Park. It doesn't look like the pond that we had there a few months ago, but you can see where they are. They're about 2% complete. That little light blue crescent-shaped figure that you see in there, that's the spring that they've uncovered as they were digging. So they're going to have to figure out how to resolve that particular issue. That, from what I understand, that water is crystal clear. So they may explain why we never could figure out how that pond was always seemed to have water in it all the time, even during a drought. So maybe that's the reason.
I'm all good about having a crystal clear pond.
We're sure it's not a water line, right?
No, sir, it's not a water line. No, sir. Uptown Central Park, they moved the notice to proceed date to July 26th.
Yeah, I saw that on I thought it was sooner than that, but they moved it back.
Yes, sir, it was earlier than that, but they did move it. That's the latest information that we have.
Okay.
This is Mary Cowell Hartson Park project. It's about 10% complete. The layout is complete for sidewalks and other improvements, and they're almost through with the demolition on that particular project. Windy Hill Street and Drainage Project, we're about 71% complete. We are driving on the north half of Windy Hill. They're still working on change order number 4, and currently they're working on some ditch and permanent erosion controls that they're going to be placing in there. We're still going to have plans to open this thing up in October 2021. Obviously, there'll still be some additional work that'll be left, but that's the main goal, is to try to get the thing opened up. Southside wastewater improvement projects, they're about 84% complete, didn't change from the last time. We are working in front of the Alexander Tracts at this point in time, heading towards County Road 158 to make that connection there. The treatment expansion project, we still are encountering issues with the rain, but they're still trying to work Saturdays to try to speed up that project and stay on schedule. They're about 62% complete. Again, we're just trying to stay ahead of the rain and working on the weekends as necessary. There is a dewatering construction estimate that is in. We're looking at that and reviewing that, and we'll be bringing that back to council later. There's no changes in the schedule, and we still expect to have this plant online in March of 2022. I do want to let you know that in case we do go with the through with the dewatering construction project, the plant will still be effectively running March of 2022, but the work will probably continue after that to install that dewatering construction project if we choose to do so. Button Creek Interceptor, we're at 53% complete. They're still working on that boring underneath the creek that's, right now you can tell it's full of water, but they're still working on that boring there at the creek. On well site number 4, according to the contractor, they are supposed to start work next week on the downtown elevated. And then we'll have some additional work probably on the logo at the well site 4. Old Post Road, this is the intersection that we've been able to get the Alexanders to agree to give us the right-of-way in exchange for the existing right-of-way. I'm meeting with the Alexanders this week to ask them to allow us to go ahead and move forward with this project. We still need to complete a water line that's there, and we didn't want to encroach on their property, so we had to stop right at their property. But one of the things that I do want to point out, we'd like to go ahead and put that, didn't want to close this road and didn't have to open it again. So that's why the county's not working there today, because they're waiting for us to wrap this up. So hopefully next week we'll be able to start on that, installing that water line so that the county can move in and redo that intersection for us. Elliott Branch Interceptor, we're about 26% complete. We're left the railroad tracks, so we're moving towards Sledge. Council and Mayor, I do want to point out that we're having issues right now with some of the large trucks that are bringing materials into that project. They're having to come down Sledge, and we're getting folks that are not happy about the truck traffic that's going through there. We're looking at possible other ways to get in the contractor to allow them to bring that gravel and material in there so you can build that project. But we're not sure if Opal's going to be the best solution for that particular truck route. Again, we're still looking at trying to figure out what's the best route to try to not disturb the neighbors as much as possible. But the unfortunate part is that we're also going to have to go down Sledge Street itself. The road's going to be closed eventually, and we also have to do work on 3rd Street. And we're looking at major improvements there, water lines, wastewater lines, and a reclaimed water line. So there's a saying that the best is yet to come, but in this case, the worst is yet to come on that project. So I just want to give you a heads up that there's going to be traffic through the neighborhoods, and it's going to be a problem. This is our microsurfacing project. We should be completed next week. We have seen some issues with some of the micros, so but what we typically do is get with the inspection group, and we'll do a punch list with the contractor, ask them to clean up, straighten up things, and make sure that if there's any patches or whatever that need to be done, that they're taken care of. So they should be wrapping it up next week, and that's, again, weather permitting. This rain has been something else. And I'm available for any questions.
Thank you, Leon. Does anyone have any questions? Councilman Rizzo.
First of all, Leon, I just wanted to get a little bit more detail on the park downtown. I noticed they were digging. Did they get their sprinkler system in, or what was that water line they were digging for? You know?
From what I understand, they're still working on that sprinkler system. That's the best I have right now. But they told me they were still working on it.
Okay. And then for the truck traffic, I think what the biggest concern with the residents is speed. I think if we could make sure that they have to follow a speed and hold them accountable, probably the way, I don't know how to do that, but I think that's probably what's going to help alleviate some of that, because the speed is really what worries the residents, because they come barreling down the roadways, and it's kind of scary pulling out of your home. I'm telling you from personal experience, I see what my family members are going through pulling out when the construction up and down Stagecoach was going on. It's pretty tough, but I think that's it. And then I had another question on the microsurfacing. Have we looked, how far down are we going with the microsurfacing? Are we going down to 2nd Street and all the old neighborhoods further that way?
No, sir, that's not on the schedule for this year. And I did look into the next 2 years. It's not on those schedules either. What we try to do is get the roads with the most traffic on them and that are in decent shape that we can use the microsurfacing on. If it's too far gone, obviously microsurfacing is not the right treatment that you want to do for that. But we did not have 2nd Street or 3rd Street. And 3rd Street, by the way, will be torn up. A portion of it will be torn up near Scott Street. And we're going to replace that as best as we can, as wide as we can. They're very, very narrow streets. They're about 19, 20 feet wide. Yeah. So that's about all we're going to fit in there. But we do plan, as we go through with our project on the Elliott Branch, is to, as we replace the water lines, the wastewater lines, put into the new water lines, and the reclaim lines, is that we're going to repave those streets and rebuild them.
Yeah, and then
So-
finally, just on the spring y'all discovered, so I grew up in the area, so I'm pretty familiar with a lot of the springs. A lot of the springs don't pop up until you've got a very heavy rain event that lasts quite a few months. And unfortunately, we're in that kind of year where we're having rain after rain, week after week, and that spring will probably disappear once the rains do. So that's probably why y'all didn't encounter it before, and why you're encountering it now is it's just the way the region is built up here.
Yes, sir. From what I understand, they did discover water about 10 feet down, but then this is about 5 feet down, so it's pretty high.
Mayor, Council, for the record, James Earp, Assistant City Manager. Councilmember Rizzo, I just wanted to expand on the square question that you asked. I think probably the activity that you saw was Public Works moving the meter, because the existing meter was going to be underneath where hardscapes would be, so they had to relocate the meter. That was the big part of the construction on the square park.
Thank you, James. Appreciate it.
Councilmember Florescap.
Hello. So I had my road resurfaced, and we've had some issues with the company that we hired, and I've also received emails regarding the quality of work. So I just want to make sure that we're following up, making sure that the roads are okay. I think there was some curbage or something that was covered. So just to make sure for next time, it's one thing to have just an isolated incident, but it's kind of disconcerting when there's several incidents.
We will be doing a punch list with the contractor, and we've already brought it up with the contractor, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Is it Viking?
Yes.
Councilmember Tobias.
Just want to go ahead and echo again what Councilor Rizzo said about the 2nd and 3rd Streets. That part of Kyle is one that shows concerns for all of us, because the residents out there have had those streets looking like that for many, many years. Are we, when it comes time to look to getting to those roads, are we looking at a total reconstruction for all of that area, or is it just going to be micro-softening, or kind of like what I had mentioned before about Martinez Loop, about doing the whole different type of pavement on it, especially back in that area? Will any of those be, how would I word this, put on the burner for the next go round, for this next phase 2? Especially back in there, because we've been receiving some concerns about the roads are just getting really, really bad out there. And I know we're focusing on the heavy traffic ones, but is there a plan in place to where we can start looking at some of those areas back in the back of the city back in that area?
We've mentioned this before. We do have a 5-year plan. I believe we're on this is our 3rd year of our 5-year plan. We haven't updated it yet. So next year, we do have a year 4 already planned, but before we actually put those roads under any kind of microsurfacing, we physically go check each road and see, is it still a candidate for microsurfacing? Microsurfacing is good for a road that's in fairly good shape. If you try to do it on a road that's not in good shape, then it's just really a waste of time and money to do that. You need to go to reconstruction. Sometimes it doesn't even need total reconstruction. Sometimes there's a section of Spring Branch, for example, that we did several years ago. Rather than doing a micro, what I did is I went down about 4 inches with the hot mix, and that road's in still pretty good shape because that's all it needed. But so each road, you have to look at each road and see, this one road is, what kind of traffic do we have on it? What's the condition? Is it pretty bad shape? Then yeah, reconstruction is involved. Then when you start getting into reconstruction, do we just reconstruct it as it is, or do we start looking at curbs and gutters and all that? So at that point, as council members, you know, the costs start going up. So we try to do the minimum cost for good streets, which is usually seal coats, micros, slurries, anything like that. It's about $3 or $4 a square yard. So that's a good way to spend your money on maintenance. That's maintenance. But when you're getting those roads where they're in worst condition, as you remember, Public Works worked on Gonzalez Street, I believe that's the street, and that was total reconstruction, and they just rebuilt it back to 2 lanes is what they did. But that took time and effort to do that. So each road is different. You have to look at it and decide, is it possible we can do a micro? Then certainly we'll do that. The good thing about micro is that you can do it in layers where you can build it up. With a seal coat, that's not the purpose of a seal coat, it's just to seal it. So again, each road is different. You have to look at it and make a determination what you want to do. We can look at those roads for certain and see what we can do in the future on those. I'll be happy to look at those.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I get the point about the heavily used roads on that end, but those are still residents that still need repairs on their roads, and I don't want them to be forgotten as we make plans in the future on road repairs, that we look into all the areas, especially some of those smaller neighborhoods, that we can at least get to them as much as we can. Thank you.
Yeah, Mayor, just to follow up on that, Leon, I think the frustration with some of the residents are in that area, and I think it's not this city council, it's been the history of the city to forget those small areas that are a little bit off the beaten path in those old neighborhoods, and this has been going on for a long time. It's just sometimes those least traveled roadways are the ones we forget because we forget they're there, you know, and I hate to say it, sometimes I forget they're there as well, and I grew up in the city, but it's
Like Gonzalez Street.
yeah, they're just very, very seldomly traveled except by the residents there, but they are taxpayers and we got to remember them. So I'd love to come up with a plan to address some of that. Thank you.
Well, speaking of that, you know, one of the challenges I've had with the Public Works plant, you know, the way they're going about addressing road projects is that I never really know what's next, when they plan to get there. This might be more for Scott, it's probably more for Harper, honestly. But you know, do we have anything that really kind of lays out this is the how we're utilizing our, you know, streets construction division, streets maintenance, so that we can know which streets are up next and which streets are 2 years out, 3 years out. That way, if there's a particular road that council wants to reprioritize, we'll have that chance to sort of weigh in as opposed to it being sort of behind the veil a little bit. Is there a plan like that in place that, like, you know, these are the next 10 roads the streets construction and streets maintenance crews are going to be working on?
Is Harper here? I don't see him.
I'm online.
Go for it.
Mayor, Council, Harper Wilder. Yes, sir, we do. We actually had roads already scheduled, and then they were put on the bond. And so we have a list now of roads that we're going to do outside the bond. And I can get that list to you, Mayor.
Yeah, can you get that to council? That way we can look at it.
Yeah, that list also includes the secondary chip seal roads.
Yeah, all of it. Yep. It'd be good to have
Yes.
just everything related to roads that we're going to be touching.
You got it.
That way we can have it in one place.
Yeah.
So,
Yes, sir, we'll get it to you.
Councilor Ellison, did I see your hand? Sorry, I couldn't.
Oh, no, you actually kind of made the point I was going to make already, but I'll just kind of elaborate or piggyback a little bit and say, I hear Councilmember Tobias and Councilmember Rizzo. I think their points are well taken, but ultimately I think that falls on the council, that we've got to prioritize to them, whether it's in our CIP plan or our projects with, as the mayor was talking about, with what Public Works is doing, that we want those roads prioritized. And so that's really, that falls on us, that we need to make that clear and if we want those roads as a part of that, because as Mr. Barber pointed out, the microsurface is not going to help on a lot of those roads that are in that area. As he pointed out, we really need to prioritize the reconstruction of what we want to do with roads, and however that may be, funding it through our CIP plan or funding it through our Public Works Street Division.
Anyone else? Councilor Flores-Kell.
I'll be quick. But it's amazing when I hear Dex talk, because he literally takes the words out of my mouth. And because I was sitting here thinking, like, okay, how do we get that done? And then I thought, wait, that's us. Like, we give direction to Scott, who gives direction to staff. So, Mr. Rizzo and Tobias, next time we talk about budgets or we talk about the roads we want to work on, it's our responsibility to make sure that we do that. So I'm 100% on, but, and you know, sometimes I just don't think about it. So when Dex says that, I said, well, that's exactly what I was thinking. Like, we've got to make sure we prioritize our roads on our own. And everybody advocates for their own, but there are roads that definitely need more help than others.
Anyone else? Thank you, Leon.
You're welcome.
All right, next up is consent agenda. I need to pull item 14. Is there anyone else who wants to pull any other items? Motions?
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve consent agenda items 5 through 13.
All right, it's been moved by Councilman Rizzo, seconded by Councilman Flores Kale. Is there any discussion on the motion?
I have a question on number 9. Was that the 6-0 vote or 6-1? Or 6-0?
6-0.
6-0. Oh, you're absent, okay. And this is just an ordinance for the master plan to get it in compliance with the city. Is that what we're doing on this one?
Page.
Basically, we were amending the chapter ordinance, just so I have an understanding on it.
Mayor and council, page signs for the record, that ordinance just makes the terms that are used in the transportation master plan match up with the terms used in the subdivision ordinance.
Okay.
That's all it does.
Okay.
Some places use street plan and other places use a different terminology, so we just made it all transportation master plan.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Have my motion,
We have a motion on the table.
5 through 13. We need a second.
I think I read through that with, second by Councilman, yeah. All right, we'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 All opposed. Motion carries 7-0. If there's no objections, I'm going to move the city manager's report up before we go into considering possible action. Scott, go ahead.
Surprise.
Was 14 pulled?
Yeah, it was. I was going to bring it down to a little bit later with the HMP item as
Oh,
well.
okay, gotcha.
So. But we've been requested to have CM report move up a little. Samantha's, I think, got something. A little something. Sorry, got to give him a second. I threw Scott for a loop there. I know I did. Sorry. He's trying to get. It's coming. There it is.
Oh boy. I'm just gonna leave it on this viewer here. All right, Mayor, Council, Scott Sellers for the record. I'm gonna jump to this one last because I'm gonna hit a couple other quickie items first, and then we'll hit that La Verde item at the end. So we have the fiscal year budget calendar. You'll see coming up our budget work session number 3 is Saturday, July 31st. Same time, same place. And you'll see the other items there, which are actually Tuesday and Wednesday evenings. So don't lose sight of those as well. Our dine-in movie event is taking place Friday, July 23rd at the pool. So that's dive in from 7:30 to 10 p.m. Pre-registration required. More information at cityofcal.com/recreation. And then we have our 2021 State of the City address hosted by the Cal Chamber at Texas Old Town. That is our Mayor Travis Mitchell who will be presenting to the public. And we hope to see as many members of the public there as possible. And finally, I'll go back to the beginning, a recap of our La Verde groundbreaking event, which was very well. There's a lot of departments that worked very hard on this, including our communications department, public works, HR, economic development. So for everyone who worked on this event, it was done very well. And we have, and Parks, sorry, Miss Parks. Everyone did a great job. We have a little video that we'd like to share of the night. So with that, roll that footage.
Roll that beautiful bean footage. Groundbreakings are when you finally get to the point where you get to show the public what you've been working on for a very long time. The idea for Uptown, which is now the brick and mortar district, it goes back many, many years, but back into the early 2000s. Honestly, it was one of the very first projects that was conceived of.
La Verde is going to be a crown jewel for the city of Kyle. It is a great project that so many people have worked on. It is a 1.6 acre park. It has an event lawn that holds up to 2,200 people, market spaces, interactive water features, and a world-class playground for the kids.
This new park that we're going to be building is something that children of all abilities will be able to play together. No price of admission, no addition to the residents' property taxes outside of the zone. The park is uniquely designed for everyone. It is truly multi-generational.
As you can see with my shirt, welcome to the first phase of the brick and mortar district. The brick and mortar district is what you've probably heard a lot of. It is a pedestrian-friendly urban mixed-use development that includes retail, restaurants, office, residential, and parks over 138 acres over that entire area. The vision ultimately includes 2,500 residences, 250,000 square feet of office, and 150,000 square feet of retail. We want this to be a place where people can live and work and play in Kyle and not have to commute to other parts of the region.
There was a Spanish poet named Pedro Calderón de la Barca who once wrote, "Green is the prime color of the world, and that which its loveliness arises." And that is part of the inspiration with this park. So I ask you all to join us in a few months, coming this spring, to our great new park, La Verde.
Well done. Thank you, Samantha, Comms Department. That's a great video. All right. Is that it for the city manager's report?
That's it.
Awesome. Well, thank you for putting that together. That was a fun event for sure. La Verde. That's so good. Okay. Do you want to, Paige, do we need to wait on item 14 and bring it up with HMP so that we can discuss them together? I think that might be a little easier. Or do you want to discuss 14 and what the request is?
I can advise what 14's about, yeah.
All right, we'll just bring it up then. Agenda item number 14, approve a temporary construction license agreement, park property.
This agreement provides for the contractor to locate the temporary construction trailer on one of the properties that's owned by the developer Mountain Plum. That's adjacent to the park, so they can, do the park construction. They need the contractor and the city to enter into this agreement. Particularly, the contractor agrees to indemnify and to carry insurance to cover any issues that might arise due to the contractor's use of the property. The city is asked to be a party since you're contracting with that contractor to do the project and have oversight of the contractor as well.
So there's no, it's not quite ready is what I'm hearing. So
Correct.
We need to finalize those.
We do. We do need a motion for the mayor to authorize the mayor to sign the final agreement approved by the city attorney.
Okay, and that has to happen before the next meeting because of the notice to proceed.
Yes.
Is that why we're doing it?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions for Paige? I'd like to make a motion to approve and authorize the mayor to finalize the final form of agreement approved by the city attorney.
Well, second.
It's moved by the mayor, seconded by Councilmember Flores Kill. Is there any discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed. Motion carries 7-0. Next up, agenda item number 15, approve a resolution authorizing the city manager and city engineer to negotiate an agreement with K FRIESE Associates, Austin, Texas, a civil engineering consulting firm to provide project management services for the design and construction of specific road projects throughout the city to be funded under the 2022 road bond program and to bring back an agreement with all the terms and conditions, et cetera. Mr. Barba.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Leon Barba, City Engineer. Mayor and Council, on May the 26th, we put out a request for qualifications, or an RFQ as we call it, asking the various engineering firms to submit a proposal in case they were interested in our project management services that we have a need for. On June the 23rd, we got 3 submittals from the firms, and so we had a panel review the proposals. We also had a panel do the interviews, and based on the submittals and the interviews, the panel is recommending K FRIESE Associates to be the project manager for this particular project. They will be handling all of our future bond projects, road projects, and coordinating with all the various engineering firms. So I'm here to answer any questions if you have any.
Thank you, Leon. Question I have is the caption says 2022 road bond program, but really we've got there's specific roads that are in that scope, right?
That is correct.
So whether we, because we're going to start engineering, it's in the budget, or at least it's proposed that we'll start engineering on these roads prior to that. So whether it goes to a bond or whether whatever the future holds is not dependent on the language of this. It doesn't have to go to the road bond because we're approving this, right?
That is correct. We're trying to do some preliminary engineering so we can get some better estimates.
Okay, thank you. That's the only question I had. Any questions, comments? Councilmember Tobias.
Okay, so pretty much what this group would be doing is looking at the roads that we had specified that are needing the attention. Would they be kind of looking at and doing the specs and the design and the engineering work itself to kind of get back a possible pricing assessment?
They're going to be doing just about everything. They're going to be overseeing the engineers that are selected to do these projects. They're going to be looking at the specifications, making sure they're consistent with what we want, what we need to have. They're going to be looking at the contracts. They're going to be looking at everything that's involved with the contract, putting a contract together and getting a project built. So they'll also be coordinating amongst all those firms. One of the problems that you have sometimes been trying to manage different firms is they want to use different things than other firms do. So we expect this firm to kind of keep an overall umbrella, if you will, over these firms, so that we make sure we get the same type of project throughout all these 13 or 14 projects that we have that we're going to build. So again, their job is just to be the overseer, if you will, of the projects that we're going to build.
Will they be working with any other third-party companies on the design work?
They may make some recommendations as to which firms that we want to use. We may use them for that.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Anyone who was on the panel want to say anything about the selection? I wasn't a part of that, so I just didn't know if anybody has any thoughts. We're all good. Councilor Allison.
Yeah, I'll just say it was a challenging decision to make. All 3 firms had various parts that they were strong in, and the group of Mayor Pro Tem Koch, Councilmember Rizzo, and myself, Scott, Leon, it was a challenge to come down to the decision we made for this recommendation, but a lot of thought went into it by all of those parties mentioned, and we ultimately agreed on this one to bring to the council for recommendation.
Okay. Any other comments, motions?
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve agenda item 15.
Second.
It's been moved by Councilman Rizzo, seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Koch. We approve agenda item number 15. Is there any discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
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 All opposed. Motion carries 7-0. Next up, agenda item number 16, discussion and possible action to incorporate bond-related capital improvements into the scope of the citywide trail system task force. Mayor Pro Tem Koch.
The Trail System Task Force, consisting of myself, Councilmember Allison, and Councilmember Tobias, we've been working hard on our trail system plans. It's been coming together really well. We had an open house a few weeks back. We got a lot of great ideas working right now, and it's kind of time to start taking some of the next steps. So we wanted to bring this before you to just start talking about incorporating bond-related items for capital improvements. Scott, you want to jump in on this?
Mayor, Council, Scott Souther for the record. So the citizenry approved a $2 million trail dedication in the last November general election. We are hoping to leverage those funds and also receive multiple sources of outside funding as well. But the process for moving forward and actually designing some of these trail segments is now, partially because we also have a Texas Parks and Wildlife funding amount for the Spring Branch section of our trail. So the question now for the Trail Task Force is to really dive in, look at the material, look at the width, look at some of the other trail amenities like benches, dog waste stations, where the parking areas are going to go. We have a pretty good idea based on the open house and based on a lot of other discussions that the task force has been having, but we are really to that point where design is the next step in utilizing some of those dollars.
So the question for council is basically, do we want to have this task force proceed and say this, essentially this is a kickstarting of the bond-related project? So any thoughts on that? Councilmember Flores-Kell.
I just have a question. Will the task force give information to the council to vote on? Okay, so nothing's going to go past us without.
Right.
Okay.
Task force is the recommending body, and really the next step also is to finalize and approve the trail master plan. It's being developed as we speak, and so that task force will bring that back to the full council.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so just to add to that, because that's a good point. It'll be on the next item with Councilmember Allison as well. So we've really kind of expanded the idea of creating task force to get a lot of things done. It has sort of revolutionized the productivity of this council since we've started doing that. And the reason that it's worked as well as it has is because up until now, the task forces have always done a good job of recognizing that it's not their project, that they are the ambassadors of council, and their job is to always, go out from council to do the will of council and make sure that they're bringing feedback and recommendations to us. It's just, there's no way that we can do all the work here. And so it allows for us to make sure that council interests and council will is represented as these things move forward, so that we're not, and honestly, I think it's probably helped staff too, because if staff isn't sure which way council wants to go, they may go way far down a path and then find out that really wasn't what this body wanted anyway, so it kind of works out pretty well. So that just probably needs to be said. Councilor Allison.
Well said, Mayor. I'll just add as well that 100% agree with that there's a lot of discussion that happens on these task force, and certainly the council could reject the recommendation of the task force. That is always at the disposal of the council, but ideally we're trying to work towards something that, as the mayor put, is more in scope of the will of the council and discussions that we've had publicly, and trying to get into minutia that helps staff as well, and not go down a path that really the council wasn't intending to go. The other thing I was going to say is I appreciate Councilmember Flores-Kell bringing this up. It might be high time for us to bring a presentation forward from this task force to kind of give the council an update on what we've done, where we're at, and kind of keep the council abreast of where we are on this. Because a lot of work has been going into this. I think since January we've been having meetings. So yeah, point well taken, Councilmember Flores-Kell.
Other comments or motions? Councilmember Rizzo.
Yeah, I just want to say that I look forward to the presentation. Very passionate about our trail system, our connectivity. I think this is an amazing asset to our city, and it's just going to get better. So the more improvements we make on it and we get it right, it's going to be a great trail. So definitely excited about it. With that being said, I'd like to make a motion to approve.
It's been moved by Councilmember Rizzo, seconded by Councilmember Flores-Kell that we approve agenda item number 16. Is there any discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed. Motion carries 7-0. Next up, agenda item number 17, council consideration of forming a task force for bond-related capital improvements at Greg Clark Park. Councilor Allison.
Thank you, Mayor. So my agenda item probably should have been more closely related to the previous agenda item, because that's essentially, one part of what I was trying to accomplish here. The second is to actually start moving forward with this. So just like the trail system was a part of Prop B, that $10 million that the voters approved last November, the improvements to Greg Clark Park, including a skate park, was a part of that as well. And I know we've been kind of on the fence with the county and matching dollars and all that stuff. But for me personally, this is Councilmember Dex Allison speaking. I'm tired of waiting on that, and I would love to. I think we can do a really great job with the allocation of the funds earmarked for this particular park through that bond, and I'd like us to get rolling on that. Skate park is something that is particularly interesting to me. I've already gone to the Buda Skate Park and some other skate parks in the area, San Marcos as well. Yeah, probably kind of felt weird to the young people that I was approaching them, but I wanted to let them know that we had this park approved by our voters, and this was something we were looking to design and construct, and we would love to have their feedback. And I was passing out my cards. I've got a number of emails already lined up in a folder ready to go of feedback that they have on things that they would have changed about the Buda or San Marcos Park, or what they would encourage folks like us to consider when building a skate park. So this is more or less just kind of get off the fence about waiting with the county and moving forward with this project and getting the designs and incorporating input to move this project forward.
Okay, Councilman Rizzo.
Yeah, I just want to thank Councilmember Allison for bringing this forward. I know it was almost about 2 years ago that my wife and I were down in Corpus Christi, and we saw the skate park there, and actually reached out to staff, even brought some numbers on what it would cost per square foot to build such a park. And so I was really excited to hear that we're going to be moving forward on this. And I think it's going to be a great asset to the young people in our city, especially when they're looking for places to skateboard. Because we do have the Ash Pavilion, but to add to that and give them another option is going to be amazing. I know a lot of the young people in Kyle get run out of a lot of places because they're not allowed to skate there. Property owners are worried about the liability. But this would be something that I think the children of our neighborhoods would benefit from, being able to go outdoors and to exercise and not just stay inside and play video games. It's going to be something I'm looking forward to. So thank you. And with that being said, I think because this is my backyard, I like to be considered for the task force. But being Councilmember Kell's district, I know she'd probably be wanting on the task force as well.
I think it's Councilmember
Bradshaw's district, right?
Yeah.
Is it yours?
Yeah, north side of Center Street's district.
Oh, so left side.
I'm sorry, Ashley. I was looking at the lines wrong.
Well, let's discuss further is like who else would like to be considered, regardless of district.
I'm okay with not being considered for this task force, but I would like the task force to make considerations on the kind of skate park or variety of skate park-ish amenities. I know that there's been items brought up in the past and ideas of pump tracks, different things like that. Some things that are more versatile to just skateboards, things that people can use with skateboards, but bikes, different, wheel, scooter-ish things that go on your feet.
Skates,
Yeah,
scooters.
stuff that you strap to your body.
You're showing your age there, MP2.
Right,
But that's
yeah.
okay. Yeah. You know what the kids are doing these days.
What are they doing? But I would just like to see the task force really dive into the options that we have and not just, think straight skate park just because we have so many around us that, there might be something unique and different that we can add to this park that would draw other people to it as well. But I very much look forward to seeing the improvements in Greg Clark Park. It's a great family park. It deserves these improvements, and I know our task force will do a good job looking at all that stuff.
Yeah, I was actually gonna make some kind of commentary on that as well, because the skate park can just be one component. There are elements of Greg Clark Park that need to be improved. The tennis courts need to be resurfaced, or irrigation. Yeah, like the old horseshoe things, they're just not getting used. There's elements like, so, I don't know what the scope would be exactly for the task force, or because we don't know what resources we have, and we also don't know how far that will go. Obviously, the focus was to make sure we get the skate park. But I would love to see lots of ideas for improving.
We also get an allocation from TDS for trees every year that we can use throughout our park system, so it's something we can incorporate. I know that a lot of families have reached out and asked, for more shade trees, especially being in Texas, so they'd love to see more there at Lake Kyle, Great Clark Park, something we could start looking at as a city, getting those allocations that TDS gives us every year and start incorporating those trees throughout the park system.
Yeah, and the only other thing I was going to say is I know I understand Councilmember Ellison's thought about proceeding, because I think that is what we need to do, but I would still like for us not to give up on the allocation from the county. I still think that we're on track. Hopefully, we're presenting your third time at POSAC for the matching funds.
Yes, sir.
So, I don't know what that means from the standpoint of the task force and the process that we go through, but I wouldn't want us to give up on it, is my only thought. So, I've seen Councilmember Ellison, go ahead.
Yeah, point well taken. Yeah, certainly. And I'm certainly don't want to say that we give up on it. I just think that we should start moving the ball forward on this.
I agree.
Hasn't been really much discussion or movement on it. And I think it's just, when the voters approve something, I think it's part of our responsibility to try and act on those things. And certainly, I think we should still continue to work with the county and see if we can exhaust every option possible. I know that when we advertised Prop B, it did say 1 million improvements of Great Clark, including construction of a skate park, but also amenities at Ash Pavilion. So that would be the very broad scope that we're initially tasked with. But as mentioned in the prior agenda item, this one just as important as anything, any of the task forces. Bringing back some presentations and keeping the council informed about what is being moved forward. I know Mayor Pro Tem Koch and I, it was probably 2.5 years ago, we were entertained by those pump tracks, and it's an option. It's something that I brought forward to the kids at the skate park too. They said pump tracks are great and they would love to have that, but it can't be the whole park. They said they really want a skate park as well. So just a lot of things to look through and consider, but I think the pump track is what could be one attribute in this skate park as a whole, but also other amenities. It says at Ash Pavilion on our website, but anyway. But certainly I would love to be a part of this, and I think that just once again, keeping council informed as we move forward with this, it will be key.
Okay. So we've got Councilmember Ellison, Councilmember Flores-Kale, Councilmember Rizzo. So far, is there anyone else who wants to discuss?
I was just going to say Councilmember Rizzo.
Yeah, I was saying, sorry, Ashley, I forget about the Center Street line sometimes.
I know, it's no big deal. And I think
but it is your district?
Yes, but it would be in great hands with you on the task force.
Sure. All right. I would like to give you the opportunity, though. It's your district. Okay.
I know you'll
Sounds
do a
good.
good job.
Thank you.
Tobias, you good? All right, I'd like to make a motion to approve and to appoint Councilmember Ellison, Councilmember Rizzo, and Councilmember Flores-Kale to the task force. Okay. Moved by the mayor, seconded by Councilmember Flores-Kale. Is there any discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed. Motion carries 7-0. Next up, agenda item number 18, second reading, an ordinance of the City of Kyle, Texas, amending Article 2 to include a section 12-23 roundabouts, requiring use of roundabouts at certain intersections and certain compliance with national standards, et cetera. This is item that's back for second reading, passed 6-1, so we're going to vote for it again. Has anything changed, Mr. Barba? Anything to add?
No, Mayor, nothing's changed.
All right, I'll make a motion to approve.
Well, I have a question.
Motion on the floor. I'll get you. Motion on the floor. I need a second. Nobody wants a second.
Second.
All right. Moved by Mayor, seconded by Councilmember Ellison. Is there any further discussion? Councilmember Flores-Kale.
Sorry. So as I was reading this, I've probably read it like 3 times just to make sure I understand it. I do have a concern in section 12-23 regarding letter B. So I got two issues. The first one is B, and I'd like to see either that part removed, or I would like not feasibly due to space or existing roadways, designs, and the exclusions of which is specifically approved by the city be less vague. I would like, if you're not going to have a residential area, not have it, like, I want to see what does not qualify for a roundabout. So I don't want it to be this open-ended, if that makes sense. So I get we want to add them to neighborhoods, but for neighborhoods that don't necessarily qualify, what does that look like? What does it look like when we say, okay, you're right, a roundabout can't go here? That's the kind of wording I would like to see in section B. And then in section 4, I just had a question. It says, this ordinance shall be in full effect immediately upon its final passage. And so my concern is, what about developments that have already started to build? Are they going to be required to have the roundabouts put in? If I see Dick shaking his head, so I'm distracted. I just want to make sure that they're not going to be like, if they started building already, that they're not going to be financially burdened by this new ordinance. So I'll let you answer both of those.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Leon Barba, City Engineer. I'll let legal back me up on this, but those subdivisions are already vested. It would be difficult for us to go back, and almost impossible for us to do that.
Okay, so for my first concern is section B, and I think it might be more for Paige. If she could find some verbiage to stick in there that will make it plain and clear, not only to the residents, but also to the developers, who is not required to put a roundabout in their residential areas? Like, how does it not qualify?
Mayor and Council, Paige signs for the record. I'm going to ask engineering to back me up now. What I understand this to mean is that this is going to be an engineering decision, and when it says it's not feasible due to space or existing roadway designs, there's going to be, yeah, okay. It's going to be based on whatever the concept and preliminary plans are. If there's going to have to be additional right-of-way acquired outside of what the developer already owns, that would be a bar to having to install a roundabout, for example. If there are existing roadway designs that, because of engineering challenges, would not allow for a roundabout in that area, that's also something that would be addressed at the engineering construction plan stage, and that would prevent somebody from being able to install a roundabout. I see this call being made by really at the engineering level. Is that right?
You're pretty correct on that. I mean, we're going to have to look at each situation very carefully. Is there a drainage feature there that won't allow us to put a roundabout there? Is there a neighbor that it's going to be a removal of a house or a structure? It's just going to depend on the conditions that you run into. Now, if you have two collectors, it's in the middle of the subdivision, and it's logical. That's when we're going to probably ask them to go ahead and look at putting a roundabout in there. So each one is going to have to be looked at very carefully, and we're going to have discussions with the developers.
So I guess my question is, could we take out B and have C cover it?
That would require a traffic study in every case. And I would ask the question of whether that is putting an expense on the applicant to conduct that study in order for that determination to be made. That's the question I would have, is if C imposes additional cost when the decision can be made at the engineering level with both the developer engineer and the city engineer consulting and reaching a determination. So I'd throw up that caution. If we only relied on C, it may impose some additional costs.
Again, I think Dex has his hand up.
Yeah, well, just you had the floor, so you get, okay. Councilor Allison.
I think I see where Councilmember Flores-Kell is going. With B, that is for in residential areas, correct, Paige? And then C is more referring to non-residential construction. I say, and then I think I know where I understand the concern there. At least I think I'm understanding here. And then E was I liked E being in there because that was an opportunity for developers, companies to request an exclusion for whatever reason, and they just would have to notify the city. But just not really so much a question, but I think I'm trying to wrap my head around to what you're getting at, Flores Kale, and also Paige, an explanation on that.
So yes, B addresses residential areas, and C addresses the non-residential construction areas. I would also point out that in B, we do indicate there that the roundabout style is required at major roadway connections. And so it's not just every street in the subdivision. It would just be those major roadway connections. And that's where you run into, if some of those roadway connections are onto existing streets, that's when you start to get into, there's already dedicated right-of-way. The developer may not own all the land where a roundabout would have to be sited. And so that gets outside of their control to build a roundabout where they don't own all the land where the roundabout would be sited. The drainage issues that the city engineer brought up, I think those would be, I understand the desire to have it be specific enough. Sometimes there needs to be some level of discretion left, because we can't think of all the different circumstances where something may not be required. And so
I just think this is a little vague. I mean, it's not like, I feel like this is going to cause more issues with arguments with developers in the city than if we just kind of nip it in the bud right now. And I'm not saying laundry list of everything, but maybe just make it a little more specific. I think that would be easier in the long run. Maybe not, I mean, if you want to amend it later, that's fine. Like, I still like the whole idea of it. I was just reading that, and it just kind of concerned me that it could cause issues in the future, or especially with the residential areas, since we have so many new developments.
Councilmember, when I talk about the residential areas, I'm thinking of a brand new subdivision. And obviously, local streets, we're not going to be requiring roundabouts, but as Paige mentioned, we're going to be looking at their intersections with our roadways that we have, and if they're feasible to put them there. That's the big deal that we're going to have to look at. So yes, there will be some heartburn on both sides as we go through this process, and you can rest assured that if we need to make some amendments later, then I'll be bringing those back to council. But it's going to be tough, but it's going to be a challenge, and we're ready to go after that challenge and see how we can get these developers to work with us and make those improvements.
Well, you use the word feasible, and working in the legal field for a long time, I do understand that feasible to me may not be feasible to you or to a developer. So that's where I kind of long for something that's a little bit more specific, or has a point to it, or like an ending. But I understand, I get it. But for me, my fear was just like long term.
I would note that if there's a determination made that it's going to be required, the developer always has a process of appealing that decision. So there's a way to get back in front of council if there's some things that need to be tweaked. But as city engineer said, I think as they work with it, they're going to probably define better where you can and can't, and then that would inform that provision.
Are we the deciders of that request? It just said the city for the exclusion request in E. So with capital C, city. So is that a council exclusion request, or is that an engineering department exclusion request? And who would be the ones to make that decision?
What I envision on subdivisions, we're going to have preliminary plans submitted, and that's the point where we make make it known that we believe this is where a roundabout needs to go. At that point, we'll be discussing with the developer and seeing if they have any objections, and if they do, what common sense response do they have to why we can't build it there? Is there something that is a structure in the way? Is there a PEC substation there that forces a problem there? Is it a drainage structure that's there that's why they can't do it? So we're going to have to use a lot of common sense on these things, and that's going to be the hardest part, is trying to make sure that we use common sense and they use common sense.
But the engineering department is the one that will make that decision?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Councilor Allison.
And they can appeal.
And, well, okay, well, if they appeal, who do they appeal to?
I don't think it's in the ordinance. We may have to set up a process for that.
Okay. Councilor Allison.
You're hitting the nail on the head with what I was going to get at, Mayor. Because I think E is important to this entire ordinance here. But I think the mayor brings up a really good point of where that appeal process goes to. Is it just engineering and staff? And certainly I believe in the common sense of Leon and others, but over time, right? And then where does that appeal, if they don't like what engineering has to say, where does that come to? I think we need to, that is something I think we should probably try to work out the details on that as well. And then the other thing I was going to say real quick, pardon me, and then I'll relinquish my time, but have we had, because this is obviously second reading, has staff heard any feedback or comments or thoughts, good, bad, or indifferent, from any of the development community contacts that we have regarding this ordinance?
Councilmember, I have not received
Not
any
that that's going
comments.
to sway me or anything, but just curious.
Councilman Rizzo.
Yeah, Paige, who would, or Leon, who would incur the cost of, say we ask a developer for a roundabout and we're thinking there might be a water issue there, drainage issue, who would incur that cost? Would it be the city or the developer?
Councilmember, when you say
For that
drainage,
study.
when you say a drainage issue, you're talking about there's a structure there in the way, or?
There's something, I'm just trying to put out scenarios on who would incur the cost. Are we gonna force something on a developer when, I feel like us as a city, we're promoting roundabouts? Are we gonna give them an added burden with studies, doing a study for roundabout in the area, or drainage, any kind of fee that we're adding to them besides the roundabout?
There is an increase in the cost of the project, obviously, because of the roundabout. They should have already had geotechnical reports to identify any kind of underground drainage problems or things like that. I mean, if it's obvious, like there's a box culvert there that's a large box culvert, yeah, it's pretty obvious. We're not going to force them to try to take that out and move it anywhere else. So we're not going to ask them to reroute the stream. That's a little more than what we would expect. So, like I said, every project's going to be different. We're just going to have to look at each one and try to understand why can't they build it, and if so, what are the reasons that they can't build it there? But there is additional cost, though, for those roundabouts.
But they've
So we're
already,
expecting them to play
but they've
fair.
already done the studies on the drainage for the area, correct?
That's
By this,
correct,
So it's not gonna be an added burden to them. I just wanted to make sure that that was clear. All right, thank you.
So do y'all want to go ahead and vote on it, maybe bring back more clarification, or do you want to pull the item and postpone and have those processes fleshed out? Does anybody have thoughts on that?
I'm favorable of the latter option that you gave. I don't think there's any particular rush to do it, and if we can flesh out those processes that we just talked about and get another crack at it at the first August meeting, I think that would, if council agrees, I think that would be probably the most prudent way.
Mayor, we have an answer on the appeal question.
On the appeal question, appeals from decisions of the city engineer, director of public works, whether on preliminary or final review of construction plans, those go to the P&Z and then to the council. So if they're making a decision around construction plans, that can be appealed to the P&Z and then to council. The P&Z approves the preliminary plan, so if there's a discussion around if there's a roundabout in the preliminary plan, that's got to be shown on that document. P&Z will approve that, so that issue gets approved by P&Z at that stage. If you're making a determination that the roundabout has to be shown on a preliminary plan, I think we could get some clarification on here of an appeal process at the P and Z level or the council level as determined appropriate, because I only see the appeal process for the construction plans, but not for the preliminary plan stage. So, yeah.
You've got a consternated look.
I do. What if they don't agree with the roundabout and they turn in a preliminary plan not showing it? Do we reject it?
I feel like this is almost perfect. We just need one more city council meeting. There's no rush, and I think it's great. And I don't want to table it because I think it's good. But I think if we could just work on a few things that maybe we've had time to think about, the more we read and go over, I think hopefully by next meeting that it's something that we could, with a solid heart, say yes to.
Fine by me. All right, I'm going to withdraw a motion, if that's agreeable to the second. I don't know who made the second. So make a new motion that we postpone this item until the next regularly scheduled council meeting. It's moved by the mayor, seconded by Councilmember.
I made the second.
Okay, sorry. Seconded by Councilmember Flores Kale. Is there any discussion on that motion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed?
Nay.
Motion carries 6-1. All right, next up, agenda item number 19. Consider approving site-specific declaration of covenants, restrictions, and easements for the Heroes Memorial Tracts and authorizing the city manager to execute documents related to closing of the parcel. Ms. Sines.
Mayor and council, Paige Sines, city attorney for the record. The status on this item is we've been working on the site-specific declarations for the Heroes Memorial Park parcel. As you know, you have a right of entry that allows you to begin construction, and that construction is ongoing. I believe we've gotten a document that is acceptable at the staff attorney level. I'm advised that the POA still needs to review that and confirm that they're satisfied with the changes that were made since the last time they saw it. My suggestion would be that we send it to them, get their approval, and bring it back for council approval. That way, if there are any changes, we would want the council to be informed of that and to bless those.
Postpone?
Yes, sir. It does not need to be to a date certain.
Or we're just going to skip it?
Yes, thanks.
All right, next up, agenda item number 20, first reading, approve an ordinance regulating traffic, authorizing and directing the installation and erection of stop signs for traffic control, the intersection of West Blanco Street and North Sledge. This is a busy meeting for you.
Yes, sir. Mayor and Council, Leon Barber, City Engineer. We received a request to look at this particular intersection to see whether it warranted all-way or multi-way stop signs, and we did a review on it and agreed that it probably could use some stop signs in each direction. From what I understand, they put up some temporary stop signs there during the mornings and afternoons for the kids as they're crossing to get to the school. So we're recommending that we install permanent all-way stop signs.
Thank you. Councilor Rizzo.
Yeah, Mayor, this is right in front of Kyle Elementary. And also, this is there's the sidewalk that leads to the main door of Kyle Elementary goes through here as well. There's a walkway that's clearly identified. Unfortunately, there's no stop signs keeping people from running through that intersection. So the school puts up temporary stop signs. I just don't feel that temporary stop signs do as much as a regular stop sign where people get used to a habit of stopping for it. And I think this kind of creates a hazard for the kids that are walking in that area. So I'm kind of thinking that we, as a council, should consider this. Also, I know it was years back where somebody went through that area and actually hit a young little girl and was in the hospital for a long time. I know the family, and the family was the first one to reach out to the city to ask for stop signs in that area, and now some more citizens with children in that area have asked for it. So I think just thinking of the school itself and all the children that cross the crosswalk, I think it'd be wise for us to approve this.
Councilor Tobias.
Thank goodness. It's been a long time coming. That's all I gotta say.
Would you consider a roundabout at that intersection?
I wouldn't consider that, no, because people are still gonna go through there.
Was that a maybe? Maybe?
I don't know. Still fussy about that. But it is true what Councilman Rizzo says. As our city has grown, of course, him and I remember crossing that street a lot, especially going to the library. But the traffic patterns have changed. There's a lot of people that go through there pretty fast.
Yeah, side street.
And so I do would support it. Stop sign there. The only question that I have is across the street on Blanco, because right there you have the parking slots that are right there. So where would the other sign on the opposite side go, including when you got school buses? I don't know, does school buses still go in front of it? Do you know, Robert, or anybody know that the school buses still go in front of the school? Okay, because when I'm looking at the map, I see like on Blanco on Sledge on the south side, a stop sign would go there. But I'm just looking at like right in the middle of where the cars park in.
Right.
How would that work?
So I know they put a temporary stop sign there, so if that temporary stop sign's not deterring the school buses, they should be fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
Same spot?
Yeah.
Same spot in that area?
We noticed that, council member, and we'll be working with Public Works to find a good spot for that and find a way to make sure that sign stays up. Because when you stick a sign out in the middle of the parking area, you know, it's a prime candidate to get hit or knocked down,
Yes.
so. But I'll be working with Public Works on that.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Motions?
Yeah, is this gonna be on Blanco Street? Yes. Okay.
Directly front and center in front of the school.
Okay.
Right where the crosswalk is.
So,
You see that crosswalk?
I'm not opposed to seeing one on each side, but I'm not gonna push that. I think it's a great idea.
No, it's
I
gonna be a
just
three-way
think,
stop.
oh, it's gonna be a three-way, okay.
Yeah.
Perfect, all right. I wasn't sure if I read that wrong. Okay, perfect.
Mayor Pro Tem.
We have a couple yield signs close by, I think right off of whatever road, a couple down here on the way to Burleson. I'm just curious of your opinion on what multi-way yield signs do as far as slowing traffic down versus, you know, the stop signs, or just what your opinion is on that.
Sometimes I see folks yielding at stop signs or even actually running them, so. Yield signs are abused. Folks will just, they know it's a yield, they know they don't have to stop, and they'll just blow right on through. But the dilemma you have with placing a lot more stop signs is they're probably gonna do the same thing. They may hesitate a little bit, but the yield signs are functional, but then folks really just have to obey the law and do what they're supposed to. But that's the dilemma. They're not doing it. Are you asking me if I would prefer a stop sign or a yield?
I'm just curious because those yield signs over there, I mean, I certainly yield because the other side doesn't have yield signs. It's through traffic. So if you don't yield and you think you can just blow right through, you can get T-boned. So,
So this issue was brought up over a year ago. We actually had to change some of the yield signs in front of the elementary through some of those streets, and actually some on the other side of town from yield to stop sign. And the reason being is that people were just blowing through those yield signs. They weren't stopping, they were just running through them. So I witnessed almost several accidents on my commute home and brought it to the attention of the city, and were able to address those. Do you remember when we did that,
Yes,
Leon?
sir.
So that's, one of the things is that people's bad habits have just changed what we have to do as a city, and yield signs, it's bad enough that we get the California road with the stop sign. The yield signs, they're just blowing through them. They're not even worried about it. They're just going through them like if they're not there.
so you're saying stop signs are the new yield signs?
Yeah, definitely. I
Yield
can say
signs
it.
are they?
Yeah, definitely.
All right.
I know where you're going with it.
Fair enough. I just wanted to get your opinion on that, Leon. Appreciate it.
And one last thing, if I could add. If this gets approved, will there be new markings added on the sidewalk for the crosswalks? Like new paint?
I need to check with Public Works on that.
See if they can
let's
just
just
go
do
ahead
it.
and
Because
redo it
we'll
all.
be there putting stop bars, so we might as well look at the
Okay.
intersection.
Thank you.
That's a good point. Yes, sir.
I think you should direct them in the motion. If you want to. Or if you want, I'll do it.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve item number 20, and also direct staff to repaint the crosswalks to clearly identify them.
Second.
Moved by Councilmember Rizzo, seconded by Councilmember Tobias. Is there any discussion on that motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Next up, agenda item 21.
Finally passed.
Any
pass.
objection to this item being finally passed? Seeing none? None. Finally passed.
Final pass.
Thank
All
you,
right.
Councilmember Allison. Appreciate it.
I would have gotten a text, I promise you, by Jennifer within 2 items. She's a hawk on those. Second reading and ordinance, agenda item number 21, second reading and ordinance of the City of Kyle, Texas, annexing 24.563 acres, more or less, of land located in Hays County, Texas, including the abutting streets, roadways, and right-of-way into the incorporated city limits of Kyle, as requested. I didn't see where it is exactly, but this was 6-1 on first reading. This is second reading. This is Mr. Coons or Will Atkinson. Anything to add to this from last time?
Nope, this is just the second read, which is required.
Which parcel is this? Just so
This
that
is
I
the
know.
Hadsel Estate. It's on the S-curve on BB Road.
Ah, okay. All right. Any discussion on the motion, or any discussion on this item? Councilmember Tobias.
I was the one who voted no on it, but I did get with a representative of the family, and I got more clarity on what they were trying to get at. So I'm ready to go ahead and approve.
Okay. All right, I'll motion to approve.
Second.
It's moved by the mayor, seconded by Councilman Rizzo. Is there any discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Next up, agenda item 22, approve a resolution of the City Council of the City of Kyle, Texas to adopt and allocate funds for an outdoor fitness court as part of the 2021 National Fitness Campaign. Ms. Espinoza.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Mariana Espinosa for the record. As you know, the Parks and Recreation Department has been trying to work over time to secure additional funding from outside sources such as sponsorships, partnerships, grants, so that we can try to offer some more innovative programming outdoors. And so all the rec programmers have been challenged with that. And one of the grants we just recently received was through the National Fitness Campaign for $25,000. And so I'm going to let Amy Garcia take it from here, since this is a result of her extraordinary work and her pushing me to see if I have my section done every single day for about a month. So I'm going to let her take it here, and I'm going to share the screen. Give me 1 second. All right, Amy.
All right, good evening, Mayor and Council. Amy Garcia, Recreation Programmer for the record. So today I would like to speak to all of you regarding the National Fitness Campaign in regards to a fitness court coming to the city of Kyle. So like Mariana had mentioned, a couple months ago she had kind of tasked each recreation programmer with the opportunity to pursue grant options for our department to bring different aspects to our areas. So from that point, I was able to set up the meeting with the National Fitness Campaign. From there, I spoke with Jack Linehan, the representative for the National Fitness Campaign. From that first meeting, it went well. It sounded like a great idea to bring to the city of Kyle a fitness court that is outdoors, especially in these times. A lot of people are not wanting to go indoors and be trapped in with everyone else. So this court came about, and then from that point, we kind of got a bit more information. So the National Fitness Campaign is a building roadmap to healthy living while promoting positive social interaction. The NFC's mission is to build healthy infrastructure across America to fight obesity and to improve the quality of life for everyone. So from this point, I have a short video. It is 3 minutes, but we cut it down to 1 minute and 5 seconds. So if you guys can bear with me really quick. Oh, 1 second.
Yeah, it's not going to work through a stream.
No?
YouTube, it'll
Okay,
make it glitchy.
so through this video, you kind of just see how the fitness court is utilized. It is outdoors. It is, they can do 7-minute circuit workouts throughout the area. It's self-guided, or the other opportunity, which I'll speak about a little bit later, is the ambassador training program, which is free to our department once we move forward with the organization. So I'll let it play for a little while longer. But they are all over the United States. The closest areas to us would be Converse and Leander. So we would be right in the center of both of those areas. So I'm gonna let it play and I'll stop it. All right. Alrighty, so on this page, you kind of see where we are proposing the location for this fitness court. This would be dedicated parkland known as Barton Park. It is north of the RV Supercenter. On the right side, this is the kind of the layout of what it looks like right now. It is in the current conditions, so the dedicated parkland is 13.5 acres. With that being said, our proposed trail idea is to go through this area, so our trail system would coincide with this area, so it would get a lot more use out of the fitness court. The trailhead would be right across the street from this fitness court, so we would bring a lot more individuals into this area. On the left side, you see the anticipated future development from this parkland dedication. Let's see if I'm missing anything on this one. On the very bottom, you see the current images. I know Mariana and the Trails team have gone out there to see this area. It is a real big natured area. It's undeveloped. But there's a lot of trees out there that we would be able to utilize for shade structure. Our plan is to bring in other shade structures into this area as well to help with the Texas heat. Let's see. All right, so on this image is the overall image of the city of Kyle. The red star would be the location of the proposed fitness court. It is in the center of Kyle, and that was something that NFC wanted to bring as well. They wanted to be something centralized so that everyone gets the opportunity to utilize this facility and this court. Let's see. Alrighty, so for the program funding, overall it would have cost $130,000, but like Mariana had mentioned, we have already received the $25,000 grant. The rest of the $105,000 we're proposing for the park development fund to come all out of the park development fund. With that being said, we're also trying to work to alleviate some of that cost and working with local sponsors and different groups that would like to kind of partner with us so they can get their name out there, get their name on the court, and get some publicity from that. So within that $105,000, we would get that fitness court mobile app. It is a free app that we could even put out QR codes so anybody at this area can scan. The fitness seasons that you see on 2021 Access, they have a summer, a fall, and a spring. So they have different kind of things going on between those times. They have a competition I know was for the springtime, and it kind of just goes based on the seasons. The ambassador training was a little bit of what I talked about earlier. They would bring that in, and our staff would be able to get trained so that we can hold our own fitness organizations out there, and the launch day kit, which is also within our packet. Alrighty, so on this one, Mariana and I have spoken about going with that premium collection and working with local artists to design the court. You see on there that standard collection is just a basic blue court. You kind of saw it in a bit of the videos before, but our idea is to bring in local artists so that we can give them some publicity out there and kind of bring in our image of what we think the city of Kyle is. And then you'll see on there the mobile app, the media press conference. So all of this is included in that 105 along with the materials needed to create this fitness court. Alrighty, so this is the fitness court layout. It is 118 different components. A good thing to note on here is Jack, when I was speaking to him, these stationary blocks are 6 feet distant. So they're already promoting that social distancing if for any reason we were needing to go back to social distancing outside and all of those things if they're trying to be safe. So we are seeking those outside sponsorships to help fund the art component of this as well. And so on this, you have this document attached to the backup information on your agenda. It is an estimated timeline. We spoke with NFC about the possible spring launch, but if we stick to the timeline that we have here, there is a possible launch date of the end of this year. Bless you.
Excuse me.
All right, and that is all I have for you.
Thank you very much. Anybody have any questions, comments? Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Amy, for the presentation.
Yes, sir.
Can you go over again the location of where you're looking for to place the fitness center?
Yes, sir.
I think just everyone wants to make sure they understand the location.
Okay, so here it would be north of the RV Supercenter. It would be dedicated parkland.
So that road at the top of the picture, that's Marketplace Road?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so it's between Marketplace Road, north of the roundabout on Burleson and Marketplace.
Yeah, and then on the very bottom would be that 35.
And so where in this property are you looking to place the fitness park? How does that work? Has it been worked out with the developer?
No, sir, we haven't gotten that far. So we wanted to bring it here. They want to make sure that we have council approval to move forward so we can fully map out the exact location.
And the idea would be somewhere near the trail system? Okay, that's a great amenity for the trail system, definitely. Okay.
Councilman Rizzo.
So we haven't talked to the developer. Have we done a study on the floodplain there? Because I know there's areas there in that area that flood. So I was wondering if we did a study there. I hate to put something out there and it wash away. It's probably not wise. But the other thing is that, you know, if what is if we're going to put this and it's going to be amenity for a development, is the developer going to put contribute in any way besides the land donation?
Developers working with a parks planner to help design the area and help us identify the best location for it. But aside from that, I think 13 acres that will be dedicated. Nothing will be placed from the developer for this project in particular. Now, it can be added to the overall development. Like if they do a PID, we could ask for that to be paid for out of the PID.
Okay, I was just wondering. And did we ever consider any other areas when we were looking at this as well?
Yes, we looked at Greg Clark Park, but like you guys have mentioned, the skate park and things like that were already kind of planned in that area. We felt like this would be the best location because of the trail system that would be accompanying.
Yeah, I'm just.
And steeplechase, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I was thinking about steeplechase. It's the first thing that comes to mind because of now having the disc golf there. I always see people exercising there, but I think we're lacking amenities in that area. I can also think about Waterleaf Park and also thinking about the Lake Kyle. I think that we're still lacking a lot in those areas for the residents. And for me, I think I would feel better seeing it on the trail system in that area because we're already expanding on the park systems here in this area, but I think that area is still lacking. I'd really like to see a consideration on that. One reason is I think that we need to invest a little bit more in those three parks in that area.
Councilman Allison.
Thank you. You know, I think Councilmember Rizzo makes a good point. I'd kind of like to hear a little bit more about the thought process on selecting that site. I do agree with centralized, so that would push me away from Greg Clark Park, which I'll already have done, and that would push me away from Waterleaf. So Councilman Rizzo brought up Steeplechase and Lake Kyle as options. Could you talk to us a little bit more about the thought process in settling on the place that you all went with? So that's my first question. Second question is, so with this, I know you said that you all were potentially looking at getting private dollars to help offset some of that 105 cost as well. How would that work in the timeline that you all shown? Do you all have a plan of action on getting that? Because if the council did support it, obviously we would need to know maybe what that amount that the city would need to commit. And then part B of that question is it looking to come out of parkland development funds for this cost for the city?
Sorry, so the first question was regarding to the location, correct? Just want to make sure. Okay, so we did speak about those other alternative locations. I know with Lake Kyle, it's a little bit different once you break ground out there. And the parking. I think that was a big thing that we spoke about, was a parking issue that we have at Lake Kyle. There's not even enough for 20 fishers to go out there and actually be able to park sufficiently. So that would add in another cost of creating that parking area out there. We did speak about a steeplechase, and I know those disc golf individuals like their space and they don't want to be encroached by others to be working out and kind of the disc going off to a different location. So those locations were talked about. This was a spot that we spoke about just in regards to the trail system, and there's nothing out there right now. So we'd be bringing something new to this area. We could bring in that aspect of the parking and all of those things, plus that new development that's coming into that area would bring that parking in as well. What was the second question? I'm sorry.
So the private funding opportunities, how would that impact the deadline? Have you all put together an action plan on whom might target that? Because just kind of thinking out loud, you know, obviously if we did get private assistance in funding the remaining 105, and thank you, by the way, in getting your efforts and work in getting the $25,000 grant. Obviously, that's a huge bonus there. But how do you see that working out? And then, you know, the city obviously would need to come in with the rest. And then part B of that question was it assumed that this identification for funding source would be the Park Development Fund?
Yes, I forgot to mention.
Or where would that fund be?
I'm sorry. So I forgot to mention, before we proceeded with this whole process, we did speak to our Parks Board, and they did recommend and give us their blessing to move forward in this process, and also gave us the blessings to move forward with taking the funds from the Park Development Fund. And so with that, so to answer your question before, our thought is to pursue, it would be Mariana and I pursuing this outside funding. And then from that point, whatever funds we do get, allocate it back to our park development fund. Does that answer right?
I myself like this location. If my memory serves me right, I think that's going to be an underpass. Mm-hmm. And so people from the east and west can come. And although I live on the east, and I know there's a need there, I think this is a really good location for this in specific. I like the location. I like the fact that you guys have the ability to become trainers and help other people there. I like that it's outside. I like that this area already has trees, because you can't speed that up. Like, trees take forever to grow. And so I love the idea. I think it's great. And I like the fact that it's coming from the Park Development Fund. And then hopefully you guys will be able to replenish that somehow. But if not, I'm still okay spending the $105,000 towards this.
Councilmember Tobias.
Yes. Great job on bringing this forward. I mean, it's be a great amenity for our city. Have you reached out already to any private individuals as far as sponsors already that could be able to start looking into helping with the offset?
Yes, sir. I've actually, Starbucks actually reached out to me in regards to looking to get more involved with our department. So that was something that I'm following up on. This was in talks. I got the information on Thursday, last Thursday. So I'm following up with them, and I've been in contact with them. But other fitness, I guess, businesses around, I'm looking to kind of bring them in to get their name out there as well. And so we can also partner with them on that groundbreaking and bringing in those fitness options for them as well.
The other question is kind of go off of what Councilman Allison was saying. If there's a way to where we can get those sponsors and see how much we can allocate from them, and then we can come back to the city, see what we can do on our end to fund the rest. And would there also be, when it comes to the development itself, has there been consideration of outdoor lighting or any of that out there for that facility?
No, sir, not to my knowledge, no. The outdoor lighting has not been brought up at this time.
Yeah, we can definitely continue to seek some additional sponsorship and money, but the part that we're in the process, we're in milestone number 2, and it's your agenda backup. And so we'd need to have a resolution, which is a blessing, kind of from the council saying, yes, we're going to proceed. And yes, we're going to allocate the 105. But meanwhile, we can actively work to try and secure some sponsorships. I just, haven't secured donations and sponsorships for a long time now. It doesn't happen probably before the next council meeting. It's probably going to take us several months to secure that amount of money. But we'll definitely work very actively to do that.
And there's a timeline within the date that we were awarded. So our phone call with NFC was July 13th, which is the date that they awarded us with the $25,000 grant. And you'll see within that 60-day deadline for the completion from the call was something that we're trying to hit as well. So that's kind of on our timeline as well.
So
certainly, and I was just going to say real quick, Mayor, apologize. That's what I was trying to get the clarification on, that we would upfront the cost and then being reimbursed by any private dollars back to the fund after the fact, because that's what I was talking about, the timeline, because we probably need to act on this now and give that blessing as opposed to waiting on those dollars. But Amy, you did a good job of clarifying that. Sorry. Thank you, Mayor.
Yeah, so my thoughts are that, I remember it makes me think of Ash Pavilion and the work that we did to recruit philanthropic investment. A lot of that ended up coming in the form of developers and engineering groups and cement groups that have other contracts. And so it was kind of calling in a bunch of favors from the city manager, I think, to get the funding for that. I think we'd be wise to proceed if we're going to do this with the assumption that we're not going to get it, so that these are monies that we are committing to if we're moving forward. So I was a little bit confused because early when this was originally brought forward, I was thinking that 25, it was just a grant-funded park, and so I didn't realize how much of a local contribution that was going to be required. So if what Mr. Seller said about the PID coming in and making it, which is essentially a developer contribution. It's the folks who would live in that community who would pay the 105. I think if that was the case and they would agree to put that in their PID reimbursement list, then maybe that is a good place because we would get fully funded. But if not, I kind of agree with Councilmember Rizzo that there's just a lot of unused space at Steeplechase Park. And so we own, the park goes all the way to Lehman, right? I mean, there's just a lot of space there, so I wouldn't be opposed to moving it there. I know that the Workplace Development's got a lot of different plans for, that park and that entranceway to the trail system, but I would want it to be accessible for people to drive to, and like I think of like Camp Gladiator, parking is a must and those kind of things. So if you put it in this development, it'd probably be used mostly by the folks that live there, and maybe a few people would drive in to use it, but at Steeplechase, maybe you'd get more. And all I'm saying is, if we're gonna put it in this spot, we think that this is a good amenity and a good way to bring something forward, we should have the developers pay the 105 through PID reimbursements. Just my thoughts. That's an easy way to get the money. Mayor Pro Tem.
I see what you're saying about your thoughts on Steeplechase versus this area, but this also plays into our overall trails plan. So, I mean, this is the first time I'm hearing of this pitch, but when I think of that area, I think it is centralized. It's accessible from both sides. It's part of the trails plan, and there's nothing there yet. So this is a park that has 0 amenities from us yet. Steeplechase has amenities that we put in. All the parks have some amenities. So I think it's also really smart of us to, each time we add something, we amenitize it in some way. So
let's get them to add lights, because these things are going to be used more after dark if they're lit because of the heat, during the summer days.
Or early morning.
Could we add
or
lights
later in the year when it gets darker earlier.
Right.
Yeah.
So that might be a conversation for word development as well, to see if it's something, it doesn't have to be a ton of lights, but something where you can feel comfortable. I assume that whole area is going to be somewhat lit. I don't know. We don't have the answers. I know you
So,
don't.
so if that's the case, Mr. Mayor, would that eventually increase this cost?
If we had lights, it would, for sure, yeah. But that's the beauty of the development proposal is seeking a PID, and I think it's a $3 or $4 million total PID. So, and there's a negotiation that takes place between the developer and the city as far as exactly what those improvements are. And we definitely get, to have our say there, so. I'm sympathetic to either way. I don't really care. Councilman Bradshaw.
I really like the idea of having the PID contribute. I think the location is great. I think with all of the development going in over there in the trail system, it's going to be very easily accessible. And I also just wanted to express my gratitude to you for looking for grants and private funding in addition to what you're asking for contribution from the city.
Thank you.
Councilman Allison.
Yeah, I concur. I think so. We could give our blessing to move forward, and then any of the additional little nuances that we need to figure out. Sounds like there's some council members that are for the spot where it is. Some they're not. I agree with access to it is going to be important. That I think the mayor mentioned this earlier. That is my concern on where it is now, of who probably would have more access to it, and obviously this is the public park for anyone to get to. But just thinking logistically, would somebody kind of drive down in there and get there, or is that going to be more used by that? I certainly understand both sides and see that too, that steeplechase is, may be a little quote unquote crowded, but, or what have you, but it does have more access and more parking spaces. So I can definitely see it both ways, but could we bless this and move forward and then maybe work out some of the nuances, including the lighting and other things that we talked about after this? Because I definitely want to take advantage of the hard work that was done to get the grant and make sure we're within the timeline of getting that also.
Yeah, and I mean, like Cool Springs Park on the east side is another city park that's in an east side development. So to Mayor Pro Tem's point, each new development having amenities does help, certainly. And so I would like to know though that if we're going to do it on this site, that's going to be a PID improvement. So that would be the clincher for me. Got it. Councilor Rizzo, you have more thoughts?
Yeah, I want to agree with the mayor. I think if we brought this into a PID, it'd be great, but I really think Steeplechase Park would probably be the #1 choice for me. I guess because I see the people out there exercising. I know the traffic's there. I know they've got the parking spots, and I think this would be a great amenity for that area. But if a PID is taking care of the lighting, taking care of paying the extra $100,000, I mean, I can't say no to that.
Hard to argue that.
Yeah, it's hard to argue that, But the other thing is that the hard work that was put into securing this grant, I just want to thank y'all. It's a lot of work. I know there's a lot of paperwork involved. I know there's a lot of waiting. That's the hardest part. But I just want to thank y'all for the hard work, Mariana, you're and staff for bringing us forward. But I definitely would like to see a plan for both locations. But if the PID was going to incorporate it, I think I'd lean further that way.
And just a follow-up comment on Steeplechase Park. Our park board chair lives in Steeplechase neighborhood, and we all love we all like the Steeplechase Park as well. When we got to thinking about it a little more, we're like, okay, well, here really soon, you're going to be able to park at Steeplechase Park. You're working at Steeplechase Park. I'm going to run underneath the highway. I'm going to go work out at Barton, and I'm going to run back to Steeplechase. So it's almost like they're going to just bring the two parks together. And that's kind of why we were leaning more towards Barton. And there's going to be a trailhead right there for anyone who wants to start at Barton and maybe come to Steeplechase. But here soon, it's just going to be a matter of going underneath the highway to connect the two. That was our thinking, at least. Yeah.
Scott,
I certainly see that. I think it's still just that we got to make sure that people know about it, and that access and getting over to it. We know how people are, if something is a distance, it can deter something. So I don't doubt that y'all put a lot of thought into it. I know Amanda lives in Steeplechase as well. But I agree with Councilmember Rizzo as well. It's hard to turn that down if the PID can consume those costs.
You think you can get us feedback if we approve it, that, maybe this week?
Yes, sir.
Just to confirm that's something that the developer will put into their scope of work.
I will do it.
Okay.
Okay, we'll bring it back and maybe another option.
No, we can approve it.
We're gonna go.
There's the timing
On
issue.
Well, who knows, maybe we'll have two one day.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve agenda item 22.
Second.
Second.
It's been moved by Councilmember Flores Kale, seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Koch. We approve agenda item number 22. Is there any discussion on the motion?
Thank you guys again for the presentation.
Well done.
And I think everybody loves the ideas that you're bringing forward with that sort of stuff. So to Councilmember Tobias's point, keep bringing us stuff like that with grants attached, and it gets us excited, especially when it has to do with parks. Clearly, this council really loves parks. So.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries 7-0. So agenda item 24 is going to be postponed again, correct? That's why we put it at the bottom.
We need 23, right?
Yeah, I know, I'm skipping, I'm looking at, I want to just bring that one up at the very end, get our business out of the way first, so. I'm trying to remember why 24 was just, it's been postponed. Oh, I understand, the developer asked for us to postpone indefinitely. They don't want us to move forward on the zoning anymore. So I'm going to bring up agenda item number 24. First reading an ordinance amending Chapter 53 zoning of the City of Kyle, Texas for the purpose of assigning original zoning and rezone approximately 11.08 acres of land from agriculture and single-family R1 to single-family R1-3 for property located between Scott Street and 800 block of South Sledge. This item has a public hearing. It is open, so I'd like to open the public hearing. Is there anyone who wishes to come forward and speak on this item? Seeing none, I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing and make a motion to indefinitely postpone. Moved by the mayor, seconded by Councilmember Flores Kale. Is there any discussion on the motion? Councilmember Allison.
Yeah, this seems like a direct result of the decision with the Transportation Master Plan at our last council meeting. I see Will shaking his head. So just something to kind of think about as well. I know there were some folks that were against what they may have perceived what was done with the Transportation Master Plan. I'll say it that way. But I know a lot of those folks were against this project as well, that also were against that. So that result or that decision led to, this result kind of here. So just something to think about, I would just say. But anyway.
Yeah, agreed. Any other comments? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Next up, agenda item 25, first reading, amendment to an ordinance of the City of Kyle, Texas, regulating oil and gas pipeline billing standards and provisions, making findings of fact, providing severability and open meetings clauses and related matters. This is Paige's item. Do you want to brief it or?
Mayor and Council, Paige Sign, City Attorney for the record. This ordinance, as proposed, makes some clarifications to the consultation process in the pipeline ordinance. The ordinance as stands requires an applicant who has development within 660 feet of the center line of a pipeline easement to consult with the utility provider and provide a 15-day comment period, basically. That process does not, it's just a process to receive comments from the pipeline company. The company could provide comments or not provide comments, and then the city proceeds with its application process from there. The proposed amendments make some changes and clarifications to that process if the council desires to make those.
From staff's perspective, is there any reason why we would need to make this amendment right now?
I don't believe so. I think that the process as it stands is fairly clear. I don't know that we've had any issues with it, with any live applications. So at this time, I'd recommend the city continue to live with that ordinance.
Okay.
as drafted.
I'd like to make a motion to postpone this item indefinitely.
Second.
It's moved by the mayor, seconded by Councilmember Flores Cale. Is there any discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries 7-0. All right, last item, agenda item number 23, discussion and possible action to consider adding council workshop sessions. This is my item. It came from a couple different things. Conversation with Councilmember Tobias a week or two ago with the quantity and volume of items. Of course, tonight may not be the best example because we've got through all of our executive session and we're to the end of the meeting here, and it's only 9:10. Which is a record, but even still, that's over a 4-hour meeting. But I don't want to put words in your mouth, but Councilmember Tobias was talking about how in executive session, a lot of times we're having to go through, I think we had 18 items the last meeting, and we really can't do much more than start at 5 o'clock. We can't go any earlier, and then if executive session rolls over, and then sometimes there are items on the agenda itself that, merit further discussion. So we find ourselves postponing items or delaying items or taking votes at midnight and various other things. And the thought might be that, especially as if some of our agendas are getting bigger and meatier and heavier, we might consider adding another meeting, a workshop, to give us the opportunity to sort of process through some of these items, ask more questions in a more informal manner. And then give staff the ability to sort of respond to those, maybe go back, do some research and those kind of things. So the way San Marcos does it, from my understanding, is they have a workshop the day before the council meeting, like on a Monday. I'm not saying we have to do that at every meeting, because if we did that, that'd go from 2 to 4. But there's some thoughts, and I'll turn the floor to Councilmember Tobias if you've got additional thoughts as well. I don't know if scheduling-wise it would even work, but we certainly have gotten to the point where it's difficult to get all of our business handled in an efficient way where our minds are clear on everything just in the 2 meetings a month that we have. Councilor Tobias?
I'm already getting the looks. But this is an overall, because of the time and effort that city staff, I know, puts in, the long hours, and including getting agenda items. And I think the last couple times we've been seeing our executive having 15, sometimes 18 items on the agenda, and it's getting late in the night. And out of the respect to give each city member their time to discuss these items, I don't want us to feel like we're being rushed and trying to hurry and get these done, especially when we're hitting 12 and 1 o'clock in the morning. The only reason why I was bringing this up is as we're starting getting into the budget season, or actually the budget month starting next month, a lot of the projects and a lot of the items that we have on these agenda items are taking a lot of time, and it's just a consideration for everybody involved, so that way we can give the time and give staff the courtesy and us to be able to make some good decisions and quality decisions and hold it in. So as an example, again, an idea I had, again, would have it to where we would have council week. We would have the executive on Tuesday, and then we would, if we needed to follow, and then we would follow up with a council meeting on the Thursday and just have it on there. If there's anything that we needed to go finish up on follow up on, would be that Thursday, and then we would be able to get it all done within a matter of a certain amount of hours. Posting the agenda, of course, is an issue with 72 hours, and we could be able to figure it out on that end. But I'm looking at it not as going forward, if this would be the norm. It would be in situations like I'm thinking about next month when we have the budget coming up, and plus our workload as it is on the agenda items. It was just a conversation I had with the mayor on that, and just giving the time that we have. And I understand we also have family. I understand we have task force and other meetings that we got to go through. I am not taking that away. I understand we have that. But these are just ideas that I'm coming up with to be more efficient when it comes to the meetings, to where we can be able to have the quality time and feel that if there's anything the staff needs from us, we just have that extra day during that week. So again, it's just the conversation.
Councilman Rizzo.
Okay. Yeah, I kind of understand where you're at. One of the things I would start off is encouraging council members to get those questions answered ahead of time. I know there's some questions we want to ask during the meeting so the public gets those, but there's a lot of questions on our agenda that we can go on our own, initiate the conversation with staff and get those questions that we need answered. I think that would help facilitate the meetings a lot quicker. The other thing I would ask is, I guess to the city manager, since this is another scheduled meeting, I know that there's a stipend here. Does that change that stipend? I just want to make sure we're not increasing a burden on the taxpayers by doing that.
Well, with the burden that we would increase would be staff resources and the pay we give to them. Our pay is established as a certain amount. It wouldn't change.
Okay, I was just making sure that we weren't adding an added burden to our taxpayers, because I know we get paid a stipend per meeting. A scheduled meeting, so I didn't know if this was gonna add to that or not. So just wanted to make sure that's clear.
I don't think it would be allowed.
Okay. But yeah, adding another meeting I think it's kind of tough. I mean, we already give a lot of time to our city, and I don't mind giving time, but there's a point where you're working full-time and you're taking away from family time. So that's the only concern I have. I love serving the city. I love giving back to my city, but where's the point where the cutoff is? Because I've got to remember that this isn't a full-time job. This is a part-time job, even though that most of the council members put in full-time hours. This is a part-time job, and I'm wondering where we draw the line.
Other thoughts?
I'm with Rizzo. As much as I love to serve, and I do about 40 hours a week, I also have a job, and I also have a husband, and I also have kids, and I also have me. And so I'm not gonna lie, I've neglected me a lot lately. And so I finally had to tell myself, you're not gonna do anything this weekend. And I did anyways. I still spent a solid 10 hours doing stuff for the community. And as much as I wish we had the time to do an extra meeting, for me, it's just not feasible. I don't know where I'm gonna get that time from. I work until 3:30, and that's in Westlake, so then I drive back, and now you're looking at 4:30, and so I gotta eat sometime. And so I think maybe when school's in session or there's a different kind of schedule, I don't know, but now is for sure not a good time for us to be adding another budget meeting or any kind of meeting. It did make life extremely, and I don't want to miss any meetings. I really enjoy being here.
Councilor Allison.
Yeah, I understand the thought here, and I do empathize, certainly, especially you, Councilmember Tobias, with your work schedule and things like that. And what I always just try to remind residents is, because I hear a lot of folks is 3 minutes isn't a time for me to do this, to say everything I have to say. Well, our emails, flood our emails with your thoughts. There's so many other opportunities to get to us and express to us your thoughts and opinions on various agenda items outside of the citizen comment period. The other thing I wanted to say is I think we could do this on a case-by-case basis. Maybe just in that day, we know, hey, we've still got a lot more to go. It's Tuesday night. It's getting late. And maybe we just need to, I know sometimes we just want to power through, but maybe we make that decision and say, hey, well, we've got still a lot more to go. There's still some weighty decisions to make. Let's have staff post for, the 72 hours time frame, and we meet whenever, I guess that would be probably Friday, maybe, or whenever that time frame is. And we just do it. I think we just need to be mindful that that's a tool in our tool chest, I guess is what I'm saying. And when that comes up, and a long night, that we try and utilize that. I certainly don't want to sway council members from asking questions at council meetings, even when they're questions that I may I know or however I might feel about those questions. But I think it's important to, certainly I encourage council, and I think, I hope I'm not speaking out of turn with Scott here, but with Scott and the extension of staff to ask questions ahead of time, or let them know what the questions are that you're going to be asking ahead of time, but still ask them through the public meeting, because I think that's an important part of this public process, is asking questions publicly, even if we already do have them answered or if staff already knows what the questions are. Because one thing I learned from a former council member, Ray Bryant, is sometimes you ask questions that you already know the answers to, but it's to get it out in the public square. And so I've always taken that to heart, and I always admired former councilmember Ray Bryant, and that was one of the lessons I learned from him. So maybe, certainly maybe it's one of those things where you ask your questions to staff and say, hey, I'm gonna be asking these questions. These will be coming up, and that way they're more efficient in their answers and responses. But I think ultimately, I think we should just be cognizant this is a tool in our tool chest, and if it's getting a late night, that we have the option to have a special call meeting later that week.
Scott, does it have to be a special call meeting, or could it be a continuance? I guess
That's a good
Scott or
question.
Paige.
It still has to be noticed, but that's a good
It'd have to
question.
be noticed as a meeting that would continue.
Well, what if it goes past midnight? I think it's the adjournment, probably, that triggers the end of one meeting and start of the next.
So if we didn't adjourn and we postponed to another day, it'd just be a continuation of the meeting, correct?
You can recess, but you have to take it up the next day.
On the very next day?
Mm-hmm.
Right. Otherwise, have to be a special call meeting, right? If we do the repost.
Correct, with the 72 hours notice.
Thank you for that clarification, Paige. Appreciate it.
And when I'm bringing this out, it's not referencing getting your answers ahead of time. It's the amount of the workload that's coming through, and we don't know how many more projects and how many more items, as you know, as we're doing these things. It's just to be mindful that if we do have more items on our agenda, more items that we need to discuss in executive session, what's going to be the plan to move forward? And yes, I do have my work schedule. I do that, and thank you for addressing that. But I've been here 2 o'clock in the morning and going into work an hour later. Right. And I pulled many hours of that. I'm trying to see how we can streamline this a lot easier for everyone, including staff. That's the whole purpose of this, why I brought this up.
Yeah, I can agree with Councilmember Tobias's frustrations, and I think we can all admit that when we're making these decisions at 1 o'clock in the morning, we are not as clear-headed and not as with it as we are when we get here at 5 or 6, or even when we're making, decisions now, 7 through 9. And I think the key takeaway, because it sounds like the general consensus is that we don't necessarily want to be obligated to a second meeting, but the key takeaway that I'm getting from Councilmember Tobias is that we need to find some efficiency is the word that he used. We need to find something to help us be more efficient with these huge agendas and with these huge things that we are tasked with voting on, making sure that we have the information that we need, and making sure I think we all do a really good job of getting our questions answered beforehand, but just figuring out what we can do that's going to help the meetings run a little bit smoother and not go until 3 o'clock in the morning.
I think some of that can be limiting presentations, because presentations, proclamations, and that early part, there have been many times when it's 9 o'clock before you even get started, really, on the meat of the agenda. So, that's not something that, unless we want to actually create some kind of policy, which I guess maybe we could, but just something for us to all be aware, because, nobody knows what the other, council members are planning, from a presentation standpoint. Sometimes it's, just one, and sometimes it's 3 or 4 different things, and then staff brings presentations as well, and all of a sudden we got a 2-hour meeting before we actually get to the business at hand. But then you think the otherwise, like, well, we don't want to leave them hanging and get our business handled first, so.
Can they just email them
Email a presentation? Yeah, well, but there's purposes for, for presentations, but at a minimum, we ought to be, including staff, we ought to be limiting the time that we allow for, presentations, just in general, from one presentation to the next, something like 10 minutes, trying to like round trip it, in 10 minutes.
I think that's a great idea, and one reason why is I remember a presentation just shortly. It was a great presentation, great bunch of people, but that presentation took an hour, and that, by the time we got to the work, we're already a little tired,
Right.
even though it's early in the day. So I think limiting the time on presentations would be great. It doesn't mean not having presentations, just being cognizant of everybody's time and not just the council or the staff, but also the citizenry that's watching our meetings. How much do they want to see in a presentation, or do they want to get to the business in hand? So it's something to
Certainly,
think about.
there are people who are here watching for a specific item, and they fatigue when they realize that it's hours before their item might come up. But that's government, that's
it's
kind of part of it, So, well, I don't think we've got the momentum here to establish anything yet, but at least we've kind of had the conversation. I know it's on everyone's mind, so that's why I brought it forward. Any other thoughts on it? We're finished with exec?
Yes, sir.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.